213 straight days of Clippers talk for you.
Woo!
Welcome in. I just can't get rid of me. I'm Adam Osland. On today's show, well, we got next interview, your annual Lawrence Frank presser after the season ends. And I'm reacting to some of the quotes that are coming out currently, right now. Looking to see if any video actually comes out from this. I know he was doing it remotely, so that may be hard to get, but not difficult to react to Lawrence Frank and these quotes that are coming out from various reporters like Joey Lynn, Justin Russo, and of course, Law Murray of The Athletic. I'm Adam Osland. Good to be with you guys. You guys seem excited that we're doing a show today. Didn't know I would be, but this pressure calls for it. So, the first quote that came out from Lawrence Frank in this exit interview that is ongoing was, quote, "What happened in Game 7, that was extremely embarrassing and also uncharacteristic. We're disappointed with our playoff exit. Our players are embarrassed about Game 7. They're really upset we lost the series." As they should be. I don't think that's fan service. I think guys are upset. I think guys are embarrassed. And I'd already told you guys that wasn't representative of who this Clippers team was all year long. And that's what makes it so difficult to end the season on that sour note or on that low point. If you guys want to get in, 877-520-1150, 877-520-1150. I didn't see a live stream of it. I'm trying to see if we have any video, but the quotes should be adequate enough to go off of. I don't know how much more I can talk about how disappointing that Game 7 was, but it's good to hear that it's also coming from the players, the coaches, everybody. That just wasn't good enough. Not even competing. So again, if you think a win is a win or a loss is a loss, it's not. It matters how you play, always. And the Clippers didn't even show up after the first quarter, basically. By the 2 minutes into the third quarter, the game was pretty much over. 17-0 run. They laid down. Some have said they quit. I don't know. I could understand that interpretation. But the fact that Lawrence Frank said extremely embarrassing, I needed to hear that. Lawrence Frank will be frank. He will tell the truth. He will be honest about it. And there are uncomfortable truths with the way that series ended and just how humiliating that was for everybody. But I know fans in Clipper Nation did not want the season certainly to end like that. Some are upset with Coach Lou pulling them early. Did Kawhi and James Harden even start the fourth quarter? I mean, I take game notes and go through quarter by quarter and do a play-by-play log myself of every game. And by the fourth quarter, I just stopped. That's how bad it was. Down by 35. I couldn't tell you if James Harden and Kawhi started the fourth quarter or if they were pulled at the end of the third. That's how bad things got. So I'm glad to hear them acknowledge it, look in the mirror, and say what we all said. Embarrassing. It looked soft. It looked like they gave up. That's not who this Clippers team has been over the years. I mean, even in that Game 5 against Phoenix in 2023, they got down big and then made a run at the end on the road in an elimination game. 877-520-1150, 877-520-1150. If you guys want to get on, I'm Adam Osland. We are going through the L. Frank exit interview for this season. And there's a lot to chew on. He did praise Coach Lou and Jeff Van Gundy for the standard set for the team in the offseason and going back to the preseason, heaping praise upon the coaches. Rightfully so. They deserve it. They did a great job. And for those of you who want Coach Lou gone, I don't think he's going anywhere, guys. They won 50 games in a season where people thought they'd win less than 40. Jeffrey Beltran is in here saying still not over it. I understand that. I'm not either. Michael Ross is saying, I would like to join about the Clippers. I put the number out there. If you want to call in, 877-520-1150, 877-520-1150. We can have a conversation if you want to call in. How do I type it on? I don't know. You put it into your phone, you go like this, and depending on if you got an Android or an iPhone, I didn't think I'd be explaining how to make a phone call today. So, those who want a coach fired over this season, it's not going to happen. I told you it wasn't going to happen. No, I don't think Coach Lou had a great series. Does that mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater? Does that mean you can easily replace him with another top 5 coach? No, that's not going to happen. You have to be realistic. Who are they going to get that's better? I liked Coach Lou. I have been a fan of Coach Lou. I said I'm riding to dine with Coach Lou. I've also criticized Coach Lou. Marcus Morris stuff, 3-guard lineup stuff, this series specifically. You've heard it all. I'm being fair about it. Because you criticize a head coach, because he's not perfect in every way you would like him to be, and your basketball sensibilities may not line up with his sometimes, that doesn't mean you just get rid of him. So, I think Lawrence Frank, specifically talking about him and Jeff Van Gundy in the season they had, should put that conversation to rest. Not that it needed to be had. I mean, he just got a new contract last year. Lawrence Frank put James Harden, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac, quote, at the top of the list, unquote, for the season that the Clippers put forth, winning 50 games and 18 out of their last 21. Frank also credited the coaching staff for what they did. So, big ups, of course, to James Harden, Norman Powell, and Ivica Zubac holding it down, especially the first 45 games. We got a call here on Clippers Talk. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jeffrey from East Hollywood.
Hi, Jeffrey, what do you want to say here?
Just over the last couple of days, man, just been thinking a lot about just what the hell happened. And, I actually went back and I put myself through watching Game 3. And I was one of those at the game that left the game just ecstatic, just thinking I didn't quite look ahead to OKC. But, I was on that highway.
There were plenty that did. I tried to temper expectations and say, hold up, guys, it's 2-1. It's not even 3-1. And even if it was 3-1, they had already lost to this team up 3-1 in a playoff series. So you could not look past Denver yet.
100%. And that's why, in my mind, I was always like, you know what? I get it, but hold on.
Yeah. Pump the brakes.
One thing that I noticed, man, was the one game that we, quote unquote, felt like we had something was just sheer luck. Like it wasn't anything that I feel like the coaching staff necessarily figured out. Like, don't get me wrong, we did a great job on Jokic, but we didn't figure anything out. Like like Westbrook got hurt. He didn't really have much of an impact on that game. Every other game since outside of that, he killed us.
Jeffrey, you heard what I said post-game game 3, right? As good as that game was, I said right away, they also shot 46% from 3 on high volume.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, and just I don't know, man. I think I love Norm. I love Kawhi. I do think this offseason has to be an offseason where we finally do evaluate where to go from here. I think if we can get a draft pick, even though we don't have a great draft history, I think we take the chance. I think, if I don't see Harden opting out, honestly, but if for whatever reason he does, there's no way we can give him the max. After seeing this, like, I love the guy, and I just think it's not feasible to pay another guy in his mid-30s a max deal or anywhere near that.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't think that would happen. He didn't get a max last offseason when he signed the 1-1.
Yeah, and I think I hope the front office sees it. I try to get on this, I think, after Game 7, but the line was so long I had to go. But,
I'm sorry, Jeffrey. It was packed.
No, you're good. You're good, man. I just wanted to say, I think this offseason I'm hopefully optimistic in the sense of I think we're going to finally see the changes that need to be made, or at least the groundwork of what needs to change.
What is that? What changes need to be made?
I do think we need to find a way, and I know it's easier said than done, but find a way to get younger. Whether it's some role pieces,
okay,
just get somebody, whether it's a decent power forward. It doesn't need to be a Malik Bridges like I saw in the comments. It doesn't need to be anything too crazy, but just somebody that can actually hold it down when we need it to. I think right now it's putting too much pressure on Nico to kind of be the savior. And I think that's kind of been the theme since he's been on the team, where if Nico isn't hitting on all cylinders, we're kind of screwed on that position. And I think
I mean, Kawhi's been playing power forward more than adequately the last 2 years. I wouldn't say they're screwed on that position, but I understand wanting to find somebody else to play it so Kawhi can play the 3. I'm good with that, but you have to understand one thing. That power forward that y'all want has to be able to shoot, because you can't have him as a non-shooter next to Ivica Zubac in the front court. And those guys can be difficult to find. Shoot, defend, rebound.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And I think we, again, don't watch a lot of college basketball, but, hopefully they have somebody in mind in the draft that maybe they can grab with that 30th pick and hope for the best. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. But it's I don't know. I don't know quite exactly where to go. I just think I do have trust in Lawrence Frank. I know a lot of people hate on the guy, just like Ty Lue, but I think we have it a lot better than people realize with our front office and our coaching.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I've seen, and I think they always figure it out. We could have been in the dumpster after Lob City, but our front office had a plan. Did it pan out? No, but they had a plan, and they made it happen.
It didn't plan out with the ultimate prize of winning the championship. No. Why did it not pan out? Well, because of things outside of their control, with injuries.
Yep.
I'm not going to blame the front office for bringing in Kawhi Leonard, the best player in basketball at that time after the 2019 NBA Finals. Everybody said it, and they got him. And he was supposed to predict that, Kawhi's going to end up tearing his ACL in his second year?
Yeah, exactly. And, I look back at it, and, when that trade happened for PG and Kawhi signed, everybody can lie about it all they want, but everybody and their mom was excited.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was one of those things where it's like, come on, that's the right move to make. That trade for SGA, did we know he was going to be good? I think so, but
we said
at the end of the
at the
day,
time it was maybe he's an all-star player.
all-star.
That
Yeah.
was the conversation. Maybe he's an all-star player. Nobody said he's going to be the MVP and a number one option on a championship team at some point. As I always like to point out, every GM in the history of basketball would have made that trade. So if you're going to criticize Lawrence Frank for that, you better criticize every great GM, including the late great Jerry West, who signed off on it. If he signs off on it, what can you say? How can you second guess it?
That's the thing. I don't think anybody really can, being serious, because I also think, SGA being in OKC helped his growth than it would have, on this team. Personally, that's just my belief, because, growing next to Chris Paul for a year, I think that does wonders for you as a point guard.
Exactly.
I don't think he has that here. Who is he going to learn from? And no disrespect to these guys, and I love Patrick Beverley, but Patrick Beverley is in the CP3.
There is a real chance that SGA doesn't turn into this level of SGA if he was still on the Clippers, because of who he got to learn from and because of how many minutes he got on a bad team initially in OKC.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I don't want to take too much of your time, and I love the show. I'm always listening. I'm always usually catching up on these shows, but I'm glad I got to catch it live today. And just keep doing what you do. I appreciate you sticking through it, and even through these bad days, you find a way to get on here. So I appreciate you.
Jeffrey, appreciate the phone call. Great phone call. Start things off. We got another one here. Welcome into Clippers Talk. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Mike, I'm calling from Georgia.
Marco, what's up?
No, I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. Just looking at these quotes coming in from Lawrence Frank, and we're going to get to all of it. But if people want to call in and discuss, we can start there.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the situation. This is my opinion about this. I feel like Ty Lue should have put between the starting. It would have been better, because that would help him win the game series. That's my opinion about that.
Marco, your phone doesn't sound great. Could you help me out?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound better. What were you saying?
Okay, my fault. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Ty Lue should have put between the starting line. It would have been much better if that would help the team win a lot more.
Hey, I wanted that. I wanted that earlier in the series. I thought he was going to do it. He waited till the second half of Game 6. That was an unfortunate move. I don't think it's not easy.
I feel like
to take away these guys that have been playing all season long, but you got to have a sense of urgency in a playoff series.
Yeah, and this is my opinion about Lue. I feel like he's not. I don't know. I don't want to be too crazy about it, but I feel like he should. I feel like he should have made adjustments until that's how I felt about him. Don't get me wrong, he is a good coach, but I feel like he needs to do better with the rotation. Like, this is my opinion about this, and hopefully this offseason, hopefully we can get a better piece of Ron Kawhi. Hopefully maybe John Collins. Maybe I don't know if it might be the great pickup for them, or
you want John Collins?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance they could trade Norman Powell for him. There's a chance they could still get him. I think they are going to get somebody at the 4 spot. But again, John Collins works because he can shoot a little bit. He can rebound and defend. That is a player that works. I think his contract, let me see. I want to say he has 2 more years. Obviously, Norman Powell has 1 more year. Let me see here. Yeah, John Collins has this year and then a player option for next year. But that's something you have to think about. He's likely going to opt out after this season if he has a good year and then test free agency as an unrestricted free agent. So you don't want him to turn into a rental. But yeah, I understand the love for John Collins. I've never been against getting a power forward. It's just the path of getting the right power forward isn't as easy as people realize.
Yeah, but the best power forward we had was Rocco. He was my favorite power forward for the Clippers. And I felt they should have never traded him, in my opinion. And I felt that really broke my heart a lot more. And I feel like Tyler should have played a lot more like a couple seasons ago, and that kind of threw me off with him.
I mean, that was always an interesting move, how he kind of phased out Rocco after when he first came over with Norman Powell. He was great. I never understood it either.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like Brian should take over. He did good. He did a great job for this team. And
5 games, man. 5 and 6 games.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's crazy. Like he was a head coach before, right? It didn't go great. I'm not saying he couldn't learn from that, but we have a much bigger sample size of it not going well than 5 or 6 games with somebody else's team.
Yeah. And I feel like he might be a better one for the job, in my opinion. Brian Shaw or Jeff Van, one of them two might be a better one for the job, in my opinion.
They're not making that move. They just paid Coach Lou, and Coach Lou has done, all things considered, a very good job. There are blind spots that he has, like every other coach. There are things you're not going to agree with, like every other coach. If Brian Shaw came in or Jeff Van Gundy came in, trust me, there would be new issues that you'd have with them that you don't even realize yet, because everybody does the exact same thing. Every fan base has something to complain about with their head coach, no matter how good they are.
Yeah.
All right, Marco. Anything else?
No, I think that's it for now.
All right, my guy. I appreciate you calling in. We were Georgia?
Yes.
Georgia. All right. Be good, Marco.
Yeah. You too.
We have more phone calls. I'm going to get to them. I see 2 calls online right now. I will get to you guys, but I want to keep going through the Lawrence Frank quotes coming out. Again, the last thing was talking about James, Norm, and Zoo being at the top of the list when it comes to giving credit for the 50-win season. Lawrence Frank believes that every rotation player made the most of their minutes this season. I do think, for the most part, yeah, they maximize their talent in the regular season. It's hard to argue otherwise when you win 50 games and only got 37 from Kawhi. Did they maximize their talent in the playoff series? I don't believe so. I don't think Lawrence Frank believes so either, with what he said to start off the press conference, talking about how extremely disappointing Game 7 was. Lawrence Frank also commented about Kawhi being healthy in an offseason for the first time since 2020. This is kind of a big deal. It really is. Kawhi's going to be able to work on things he wasn't able to because he was doing rehab last offseason. Now, he also has to balance not going too hard and having the knee swell up. And at least we know the plan that they had this year for his right knee with managing it seemed to work. We'll see if that continues. That's a huge deal. You remember all the talk about it at Media Day last year and how they came up with this plan? It seemed to work. But Kawhi also talked about not being able to train as hard, and that affected his play early on. It took him longer in the ramp-up process to get back to playing at a high level and elite level as he was the last 20 or so games heading into the playoffs. So he also mentioned, Lawrence Frank said, quote, James Harden did a great job leading the way. He was the only player in the league to finish top 10 in points, assists, steals, and threes. I know many of you are just going to talk about his playoff series in the Game 7. It's not like he didn't have 4 good games in this series. He did. 1 through 3 were good. Game 6 was stellar. Game 1 was stellar. They should have won that game. He had 4 good games in this series. Was he good enough? No. But he wasn't miserable either. I think that deserves recognition. And they don't get to 50 wins at all without James Harden. I think he was the MVP for the regular season because he's the engine of the offense. And when he was on the floor, they had a solid offensive rating. Holding their entire offensive rating against him, which goes into other guys being on the floor, doesn't make sense to me. BJ Matthews and I have had this conversation many times. Just look at the on-off numbers when James Harden was on the floor in the offensive rating and when he was off the floor. When he was on the floor before Kawhi came back, they had a solid offensive rating. It would have been around 13 to 15. The defense, yes, was elite, but considering what they were working with on the offensive end, James Harden was great. And if you think, oh, that's because of Norman Powell, it's like Norman Powell can't dribble the basketball. He can't initiate offense. He can't run pick and roll. James Harden was the system. Norman Powell is more dependent on James Harden than James Harden is on him. Same with Ivica Zubac. James Harden was the MVP during the regular season. He was. Lawrence Frank also talked about our best player only played 37 games this year, unquote, citing more games from Kawhi as well as internal improvements from players and moves that can be made via trade and free agency. Quote, I think looking at next year, we can be better. This is something I've been bringing up the last, I guess, since the season ended. But what if Kawhi plays 55 games next year instead of 37 with a similar group coming back? Well, they won 50 games last year with him only playing 37 of them. How much better could they be if he plays 55 or dare I say 60 games? That's where you can still improve so much. Lawrence Frank believes that a full offseason will help Kawhi Leonard recover more of his athleticism after focusing this year on simply getting back on the floor. Again, he believes a full offseason with Kawhi being able to not just do rehab and manage his knee, but actually work on his game will recover more of his athleticism after focusing this year on simply getting back on the floor. He looked pretty good. I mean, so that's, yeah, it can only help. I know he's a year older, but you do have to understand, outside of his right knee, other parts of his body don't have the same wear and tear as a typical, what he will be 34-year-old by the time the season starts. They don't. Kawhi can still do this at a very high level. He was good, not great in the series. He had a great game too. He didn't have enough great games, top 5 player type of games, but I'm not giving up on, Kawhi still being one of the best players in the NBA after what we saw the last 2 months of the season and throughout the playoffs. Like, I still feel like you put more of the right pieces around him, take some of the, like they did this last season, defensive responsibilities away from him, bring more athletes around Kawhi Leonard. There's ways to bring out the best in Kawhi Leonard and get him in an even better spot than what we saw, which was pretty damn good once he got about 20 games underneath him this year. There's not much more important than that. Lawrence Frank mentioned the player options that James Harden and Nicholas Batum possess and that the team will talk to them. Frank cites the team having the non-taxpayer mid-level exception and trade exceptions, quote, and will always be an attractive place in the minimum market. They will be. It's part of the reason they got Ben Simmons, I think. We'll see if he comes back. He's a free agent. But when he says this is key, cites the team having the non-taxpayer mid-level exception and trade exceptions, what that means is they're going to be under the first apron again. They're staying under the first apron because that's the only way you can have the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is about $13 million. This year, they split it up between DJ getting about $10 million of it, and I think Batum got some of it, or he might have got the biannual exception. But, yeah, the Intuit Dome, the 14 straight winning seasons, Steve Ballmer, the continuity and stability with front office and head coach, it's an attractive place for players to come to. It is a destination franchise now. That was not the case 10 years ago. This stuff is a huge deal. Lawrence Frank also said regarding player options that it would not be responsible of him to not have a contingency plan if James Harden opts out. But he hasn't given any thought to Harden or Kawhi Leonard not being on the team next season. He's expecting both of them. He's also making sure that he has a contingency plan if Harden opts out. As you said, it would be irresponsible if he didn't. The big domino to fall is James Harden. Is he going to opt in? Is he going to opt out and resign? Is he going to opt out and leave? That is the biggest potential shift in roster construction this offseason, depending on what James Harden wants to do. My best guess is that he will be back. He will be back. All right, let's take a phone call. Mystery caller, you're on Clippers Talk with Adam Osland. What's up?
Hello?
Yep, you're on Clippers Talk. What do you want to say?
Hey, what's going on? Adam, I'm hurt. I'm hurt after this season. But we gave it a good run until that last game. That was just,
I agree.
what was that?
I agree. That was awful.
Hey. But the Intuit Dome and the overall experience for the season was amazing.
I know. This was the inaugural year of the Dome, of the Clippers having their own home. We're going to remember it for that, Ivica Zubac and the season he had. There's so many good takeaways from this year. It's one of my favorite seasons. It just ended on such a bad note.
So bad. Like, but kind of the canary in the coal mine was the first game at Intuit Dome. We took an L. We opened the stadium with an L. That was bad.
Yeah, but they ended up
It was an
going
overtime L, but
30-11 at Intuit Dome this season. After losing their first 4, they went 30-7 the rest of the way.
Yeah. And that was, but damn. And like I think we got to make big changes.
Any realistic
Harden?
big changes you could bring up?
Of course not.
What's your name? Where are you calling from, by the way?
It's Sean from Gardena.
Sean?
Yeah, Sean from Gardena. First time, long time. Thank you for everything you're doing out here for Clipper Nation. And yeah.
Well, Sean, give me an unrealistic big change you would like to see.
Unrealistic? I think
just tell me what you would like, and I'll see how reasonable it is.
Let's see. Giannis and Trae Young.
All right, yeah, that's not happening.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean they're in a bad spot. Again, as Lawrence Frank brought up, and I brought up yesterday, what happens if they get 50 games from Kawhi next year instead of 37? How many more games could they win? Could they get to 55 wins? Like, there's a real good chance you're going to have home court advantage in the first round if Kawhi can play more games.
Yeah, but where are we going? Second round? Kawhi showed he can't do it like he used to do it.
I'm not convinced of that yet. I'm not. Game 2 was so strong. And Kawhi overall was good. He averaged 25 on 53% shooting, 41% from 3. This was far from a bad series. He didn't have enough impactful moments where he took control, and he wasn't the best player in the series. But it's not, Jokic didn't have a great series. Like, it was a role player one series in a lot of ways by the Denver Nuggets with Aaron Gordon and Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, but where was our role players? Like, Derrick Jones Jr., he was a star at multiple points this season. Killing it.
I don't know about star, but he was good in his role. I think he was solid.
He was good in his role.
He was really good in Game 6, and he was solid to start Game 7 with those quick 7 points.
Yeah, I was at Game 3, and the way we played Game 3, we shot amazing, but the ball never stuck.
You're right.
The ball never, Harden made a decisive move when he was making a move. He'd go to step back 3 or like layup, but not just get stuck and just dribble for 5-10 seconds.
I think there's something to that. I also think the defensive intensity from the Denver Nuggets got better as the series went along.
Yeah. Overall, good season, but just the end,
I totally agree. It's hard to marry those two things. Them having this good of a season, but it also ending in such disappointing fashion.
With no fight, we went out not fighting.
Yeah.
We got to go out on our shield,
Completely.
But, yeah, I'll let you go then, Adam. Thanks for the season, and thanks for keeping up with Clipper Talk.
All right, my friend. Be good. 877-520-1150. Another call here. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Barry from Ohio.
Oh, what's up, Barry?
Not much. How you doing, brother?
Hanging in there. Going through these quotes from Lawrence Frank. What do you want to say?
The game was bad, but I just have two criticisms about the Kawhi, Ty Lue area of this Clippers team, and I want to know if you think they're fair.
All right.
The first one is leadership. I wasn't too big on leadership and your best player having to be the leader. You can have other leaders on the team, but after 6 years now, is it fair to criticize Kawhi not being the leader, not being the voice of the team? You know what I mean? And then we have James Harden, who's only been in the locker room for 2 years, and he's an undoubted leader.
Here's the thing. I can pull receipts from Kawhi from just last season saying, I'm trying to take this team to a place they've never been before. I have seen leadership at times. Like, he's not the most vocal, but he does talk enough. I don't think it's completely unfair.
My point is, I don't think we're gonna ever. I mean, I don't know if the game we had in Game 7 would have happened to let's say Steph Curry or Jokic or one of their teams. I get he's a leader.
Oh, wait. Jokic blew a 20-point lead in Game 7 last year at home.
True.
I got a long memory, man. I can talk about Kobe Bryant shutting down in the second half of a Game 7 in Phoenix and not even wanting to shoot. I can talk about a lot of guys.
I'm just saying, who do the guys turn on in a situation when they're playing in a hostile environment? You know what I mean? Who's the guy who's supposed to?
Well, Kawhi carried him in Game 2. I was hoping for that again in Game 7.
So you're still okay with what is it called? I forget what type of leadership that is. Leader by example. Him being a leader by example.
I don't know if I'm okay with it. I just can't say he doesn't lead at all. Could leadership be stronger with this team overall? Yes.
Okay.
I'll put it
and
like
then
that.
My last criticism is in this Ty Lue Kawhi era, I think we've struggled to find a good balance to ball movement and a free flowing offense with him, doing his ISOs every once in a while. I feel like we just don't have people cutting, or it's just very stagnant at points, and we're dependent on either. Before it was Kawhi and Paul George, cooking the man in front of them. And now it's James Harden and Kawhi. And if you look at the teams that are still in the playoffs, a lot of the teams are free-flowing offenses. For example, the Pacers, even the Nuggets, the Warriors. Do you think there's anything to that?
Not really, because typically in the end it comes down to a lot of ISO ball, and the Clippers have two of the best ISO players ever, so you lean into their strengths with Kawhi and James Harden. Again, there's nuance. I'm not saying it's nothing, but I am saying it makes sense when you two have your best two players are heavy ISO guys to let them cook in isolation. They literally were at the top of the league last season when you got 68 games from Kawhi to really get a better sample size of points per possession in isolation. It was Kawhi, highest in the league, and then James Harden behind him. From an efficiency standpoint, they've been great in that area. So I'm not going to say it's not fair to criticize and want more ball movement. I understand that. I also think you have to look at how this roster is built, and you have to lean into your strengths.
I just think we're easy to guard, especially when it's playoff time.
Here's the thing: are they easy to guard, or did they miss an ton of threes that were wide open?
True.
How many threes did they generate that were wide open? I mean, I could look at the analytics, and maybe I'll do this at some point, but they missed so many. They created so many good shots out of their offense, and they're just clanking. The role players were not good enough, and the stars weren't good enough either in this series.
just go back to 2021 and remembering us having. I mean, we still were doing primarily ISO ball, but it felt a little more mixed up, where guys the ball was moving and stuff. But
man, I remember 2021 well. You know what the narrative was midway through the season? That the Clippers are too ISO heavy in crunch time. I remember they had just lost games to Brooklyn and Milwaukee, and everybody was killing their crunch time offense. And they were still doing all kinds of ISO in the playoffs. Like, it's just because it worked better then. You're like, well, they must have been moving the ball more. They were still ISO heavy.
No, it's not that. I was just watching the Nuggets cut us to death, and I'm like, why don't we cut?
Well, if they had more athletes and they didn't have so many good ISO guys, they might do more of that. They didn't lose this series because ISO ball. They lost this series. The stars, they weren't good enough. The role players weren't good enough. They generated plenty of good shots. You got to be at your best when your best is required, and they weren't. And it's disappointing. But I'm trying to I'm not trying to go down rabbit holes. Like, I'm trying to identify the real problems. And I've heard this ISO thing forever, and it's like, you guys watch playoff basketball? Do you know how much of it comes down to ISO ball? Like, that's the name of the game. Like, you have to be able to beat your man. So I don't think that's their fatal flaw. I don't. But I'm not saying they can't be a little bit better with the ball movement and cutting. I'm not saying that.
One other thing. What's the hope for us Clippers fans for next year? Another first-round exit?
The truth is, in the West, and I saw this from Justin Wilson or Jamal Christopher, the brothers earlier, the twins, that the West is so competitive that anybody could lose in the first round. The Houston Rockets were the 2 seed, and they lost in the first round. The Lakers were the 3 seed, and they lost in the first round. Like, to act like, oh, you can be a contender and still lose in the first round because things are so close outside of OKC. You can.
I'm just saying, a lot of us fans have lost faith. You know what I mean? We've been holding on to, we get healthy Kawhi and we could beat anybody in the West. And now it's like reality starting to set in for us.
They blew a series, in my opinion, in some ways. That doesn't mean they're going to next year. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing. Every game has its own storyline, yet alone every series. Like, just because you can dumb it down to, oh, they've lost in the first round again, it's like, okay, let's see how they lost. Last year was because Kawhi only played 2 games and wasn't right. The year before that, Kawhi only played 2 games. Paul George didn't play any of the series against Phoenix. Like, every series and every game has its own unique storyline. You got to look at the context of what happened, in my opinion.
But what about competing for a championship? Are we going to do everything in our power to avoid the Nuggets or be on the opposite side of the Nuggets? Because this is the second time the Nuggets have beat us healthy like this. You know what I mean?
I don't think you should play that way. I don't think you should be so scared of a team that you try to avoid them in the bracket, because eventually you might have to play them.
Okay. All right.
I appreciate the phone call, Barry. I get the frustration, man. It's only been, what is this, day 2?
Yeah.
We're gonna keep working through it all summer.
You still doing the streak, or is this we doing the streak still?
I mean, today it continues. Today was day 213. I don't know if I'm doing it tomorrow, but we'll see. All right, Barry.
I appreciate you. Have a good one, brother.
Barry from Ohio. Be good. More from Lawrence Frank at his presser. So I'm still looking to see if there was any audio dropped, which would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to be the case. He was there remotely. But we got good quotes coming out. Lawrence Frank said multiple times in his presser that he hopes James Harden will be selected to an All-NBA team. I think he will make third team. He added that he believes Ivica Zubac should be an All-Star next season. The Clippers will be hosting All-Star Weekend at Intuit Dome. This is how it goes. You have that breakout season where it takes people too long to pick up on just how good you played. But then you have momentum going into the next year for those awards and for that recognition. I always quote John Fox, who used to talk about Pro Bowls. He was the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, early 2000s. And he said, usually it takes 1 year too long to get in the conversation or to get in the Pro Bowl, and 1 year too long to get out, because a lot of it's based off of reputation. But now that people have seen Ivica Zubac play at this high of a level for a regular season, that could change for next year. He's going to get more notoriety. Another phone call here. Welcome into Clipper Talk with Adam Moslem. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. My name is Nick Hill here in the Valley.
Nick, what's up? What do you want to say?
First, a big thanks to you, Adam. You have provided lots of listening during dog walks, during the down times, during the good times, treadmill time, whatever. So much appreciated. You kept the faith, which kept a lot of us going, and made for a more entertaining season during the highs and the lows.
I appreciate that, man. I really do.
I will say now I just tuned in, so I apologize if I'm going over ground you've already covered. But, there's a lot. I think sometimes people want to, with many things in life, make it all or nothing. It was all good. It was all bad. It was all a failure. It was all a success.
Right.
We know it's much more nuanced than that. And even looking at this season, yes, was it a disappointing ending? For sure. Do I have questions about urgency from the top down, whether that's coaching or some of our best players? I absolutely do. At the same time, we weren't supposed to do anything. It's almost like people forget we overachieved to get to this point. And in Game 7, we kind of finally played down to where our expectations were for this group.
Agree.
And I was in the arena for Game 4. I had a great seat of Aaron Jordan making that dunk, by the way.
Me too.
Oh, that was painful. But I think we can take some of the good from this, especially now that a couple of days have passed. Zoo, I like that Lawrence Frank said he's likely to be an all-star next year. I agree. If they give him the ball more.
You know,
anyway, I've been a Zoo truther from day one.
Oh,
so yeah, I know
you're on the right
same
side
train.
of history. You're on the right side of history.
The joke I often make with people is that I love Zoo more than his own mother does. So the first NBA jersey I ever bought was at Game 4, and it was a Zubac jersey.
What color did you get?
So blue, the deep blue, to go with what they were wearing that day.
You can't go wrong, but that's a beautiful one.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure. So we do have something to look forward to in terms of if they give Zoo the ball more, can he be an all-star? I firmly believe he can. I think he can average 20-10 as long as he gets the ball. So, and that might be a little bit of my Zoo truther bias showing, but I really think it's true.
Well, you know how I feel. I'm right there with you. Now, the one thing I'm wondering is, can he still improve with his passing? And his playmaking out of short roll, which exponentially improved this season, and he was great. And I think it was just because he actually got reps. Like, he could have been doing this, I believe, at 25 or 24. He just needed the reps. He needed to actually get the basketball more. He has game on the block. We know that, how skilled he is. Does he develop at all a jump shot? Because I don't even know if it's not that we know for sure he doesn't have a little bit of range. He might. He just hasn't have a chance to show it off at all. And maybe that's the next stage of his development, because then you really have a guy that you can play through even more.
I agree completely. You know, I've heard the debate where you were getting indignant when folks were saying most improved, and you were saying no because he's been like this. He's just gotten more minutes. I think
I'm psychotic.
I think on the block, he definitely could have been doing this a long time ago, and we've seen those moves. I think the expanded range on that shot put floater he has, that's new, and that's added, I feel like, 4 points a game. Just that shot put floater, where he couldn't do that at 9-10 feet last year, and he can this year.
Okay, here's the thing though.
But it's improved.
Here's the thing. Last year, from 5 to 9 feet, he led all centers, including Jokic, in field goal percentage there. He was great there last year.
He was. He certainly was. He certainly was. I feel like he's taking them a little farther out now. Maybe it's visually I can't tell completely, but it looks like he's more willing to take them from the free throw line area. Those shot put floaters, even while in motion.
All right. Yeah, I'm sure it's gotten even better from last. It's gotten even better from last year. I don't think percentage wise from 5 to 9 feet it has, because last year I think he shot like 63% from there. That was by far the best, but he's great. He's refining things he was good at, and now I just want to see what his ceiling is.
Yeah, and his foul rate is so much lower than it used to be, which I think people have lost. It's not just that his stamina allows him to play 35 minutes a game. It's that his excellent defense, while not fouling anymore or not nearly the rate he used to, also allows him to play this much more.
That's a good point.
And that's an improvement that allows him to get more minutes so that he can show off these skills and thus put up bigger numbers. So I think we need to attribute that to improvement. It's odd to say that improvement on the defensive end allows him to improve on the offensive end, but it does if it keeps him out there.
No, it's a smart point.
Beyond that, with the team, I think our expectations got raised, but before the season, we were saying this is going to be a lottery team or possibly a play-in team, whatever the case. And it's good that they're not. Yes, would it have been great if they had an athletic power forward, which a lot of us have been saying for years, to get some rebounds, to do some
not
of the dirty
just
work.
athletic.
Sure, but if not,
he has to be able to shoot. That's what's so hard to find. Those guys get paid a lot of money.
Great point. You made such a great point too. This is why I wasn't totally surprised at Denver. You were the one person who did point out the Clippers shooting variance. I'm a poker player. I know about variance. The Clippers shooting variance was way too good from three. And the opposing team's variance was way too bad from three during that 18-3 run or whatever it was to end the season. And you were right. And those two things progressed to the norm or regressed to the mean, whichever case it was, at the same time.
I did bring that up.
Pretty brutal.
The Clippers.
You did bring it up several times. I no need for receipts. I remember it all.
The Clippers being the hottest team from three the last 20 or so games heading into the playoffs, and teams shooting their worst from three against the Clippers was unlikely to remain that way in the playoffs. But, the playoffs are also just such a different thing, and the amount of variables and how much, each game is its own little saga. It's just, It's very strange.
And some teams, we're not exactly, some people say if you keep doing the same thing, definition of insanity, whatnot. However, I can point out several champions who did roughly the same thing, tweaks here and there, and broke through. The Bucks were like that in recent history. The Mavericks team that beat the Heatles.
Yep.
Were like that in recent history. We've had a few teams that were like that, where eventually things did work out in their path. I'm glad the front office, I'm not as in love with the front office as you are. They did great this offseason, but I do think drafting is palpably horrible, sadly. So
here's my thing.
Between you and the haters. I'm between you and the haters.
No, that's fair. I've acknowledged they haven't drafted well enough. I also think it's a little bit overblown, because if you look at every team's draft picks over the last decade, you'll see they miss 70% of the time. That's how it goes. Like good teams.
True, but where's our 30%, Adam?
Well, they did draft Shea. They did get Terrence Mann. I know he's gone now, but he was a valuable member of the team with 46 pick. They did get Amir Coffey undrafted. Like they have done good, like relative to the back end of the draft and what you would expect from those guys. They have done a decent job there. Now they haven't done good enough job in the first round or late first round with Fiondo, Kabengele. Kobe Brown hasn't shown enough yet. Jordan Miller still has a lot of promise. I love the pick of Cam Christie. So I'm not going to say it's all bad or horrible.
No, I just think they've underperformed. Even relative to league average, I would say they've underperformed in the draft area.
I think that could be fair. That could be accurate, yeah.
But he did great. Lawrence Frank did great this offseason, what he added. I'm glad. Let's put it this way. If he had put a team around Kawhi and James this year to go farther, they would have severely jeopardized the cap situation for later years. And we can't keep throwing, it's not quite good money after bad, but our stars are old. We're way too old. We understand that. And that's the game plan, I'm assuming, for when the books are clear, is to get youth, get athleticism, get all these things we're talking about. And if we do that right now, then we're not necessarily giving ourselves a much greater chance to win with this iteration of the Clippers, and we're severely hamstringing our chances in the future. So
that's exactly
some of this frustration comes from a good place, in that they didn't blow everything now, which would have been a bad move.
No, if you double down, and if Paul George had re-signed, they would have been over the second apron. And maybe this year, I don't know, are they slightly better? We don't get the Norm year. We don't get the Ivica Zubats year. I'm thankful. But even if you said they're slightly better this year, would they have been good enough to win it? No. So why restrict your salary cap situation for years to come by making that move?
Exactly. Because the goal isn't could we have beaten the Nuggets in the first round? Maybe. But could we have beaten the Thunder to get out of the West? I don't think so.
After what we saw in the first round series against Denver, the chances of them beating the Thunder in the second round and an older team like this being able to play at a high enough level consistently, pretty slim.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that to give a more holistic view to other listeners who probably feel some of the things I felt, that had they done a little better this year, I don't think they would have won, and they would have done worse in the years to come. If that gives anybody a little perspective.
I think this was a really good phone call. What was your name again?
Nikhil, Nikhil, longtime Clippers fan, TV writer, all in the entertainment space. Long-time listener.
You got any jobs for a guy that doesn't have anything going on this summer?
You know what? I could talk. You could be a consultant for something I'm writing, actually.
All right.
No joke. Legitimately, you could.
Well, hit me up on adamosland@gmail.com. adamosland@gmail.com.
Okay, will do.
Nick, great phone call.
The space.
Hey, why did it take you so long? I got one criticism. Why did it take you so long to call in, Nick?
Because I never listen live.
I got you. Well, I don't do a good job of also giving out when I'm going live because it's just pretty random. I'll take the L. All right,
Thank
Nick.
you very much, Adam.
Be good.
Talk soon. Bye.
Man, a lot of phone calls coming in. Nick lit up the phone lines here. All right, we'll get to another call and then more from Lawrence Frank. Clippers Talk, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's up, Adam?
Oh, J-Dog, what's up?
Yes, sir.
J-Dog, how you feeling? Adam. We haven't talked since they lost, right?
No, I think the last time I called him was, game 6 or 5, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
how you doing, brother?
You would think as a longtime Clipper fan, you're desensitized to this, but I think this one just hurts a little more because I can't even lie. This team felt a little different. Obviously, we were wrong, but I don't know, Adam. I wanted to ask you, what do you think we should do? Like, for next season, run it back? Retool? What do you think?
Well,
I was thinking of something a little crazy. I don't know if you want to hear my little...
How about this?
I thought of yesterday.
Can I put you on hold and read some more of what Lawrence Frank said? Because I think he addresses some of the stuff you just brought up.
Yes, sir.
All right, J-Dog, hold on. Lawrence Frank, in his exit end-of-season presser, said, quote, "will always be an attractive place for free agents." Obvious facts there. Let's see. Quote, "just from an organizational philosophy from Steve Ballmer, it's always about competing and giving our fans every single night, or giving to our fans every single night. He wants them knowing we're trying to win. We're never trying to tank." We've heard this before. That's the philosophy. That's the way they're doing things. Lawrence Frank said, "I think we need to add the West is a bear." So they're not complacent in that they're not going to make any moves. Lawrence Frank said, "I think we need to add the West is a bear." He also pointed out some of their deficiencies in this series: transition defense, defensive rebounding, taking care of the ball. That let the Clippers down in critical stages of this series. Perfect assessment, of course. It's a shame because defensive rebounding, they led the league in defensive rebounding percentage. But Denver was top 5 in offensive rebounding percentage. When I did the season preview, I said something has to give here. It's strength versus strength. Denver won that battle. Getting more possessions, getting more second chance points. Obviously not lost on Lawrence Frank. Lawrence Frank on what level of thought he's given to one or both of Kawhi and James Harden not being on the roster next season. He said, quote, "I haven't given it any thought, but I also am respectful of the fact that James has a player option." So again, he's expecting both Kawhi and James to be back, but James has a decision to make. Is he going to opt in? Is he going to opt out and re-sign? Is he going to opt out and go somewhere else? Lawrence Frank repeatedly mentioned the 21-5 run of who he considers the core group. I guess this was at the end of the year, the 21-5 run. I think it was 18-3. If you pull it out a little bit further, it's 21-5. Pause. Considers the core group Kawhi, James Harden, Ivica Zubac, and Norman Powell. Hopes that group can get to 50 to 55 wins next season. Now, this is a big statement here. When you consider Kawhi, James, Zoo, and Norm the core group, well, doesn't sound like he's moving Kawhi. Doesn't sound like he wants James Harden to leave. Ivica Zubac's obviously not going anywhere. Norman Powell, who we've talked about the last 2 days, does have a favorable contract, a tradable contract. And if you're going to make a move, it could be with Norman Powell. Does that mean it's set in stone that he's not going to get traded or not going to be moved, or this group is definitely coming back? No, it's early. But Lawrence Frank said he hopes that group can get to 50 to 55 wins next season. And given that Kawhi only played 37 games this year and they got to 50 wins, I don't think that's totally unrealistic. If he plays 50 to 55 games next year, they could win 50 to 55 games. 50 to 55. Toy boat. They could win 50 to 55 if they get that many games from Kawhi. I guess he was asked about the age of the team and joked that, quote, "Can anyone find a Benjamin Button, Jamal Crawford anti-aging item?" Lawrence Frank is looking for that. So there's a little bit more about the way they're building this team and how he's looking at it, fresh off the season ending. J-Dog, you got anything to say to that?
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I kind of do think we need to retool a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. It's still too soon to say.
He did say we need to add. The West is a bear.
Yeah. No, like I see everyone putting the like John Collins, power forward and stuff like that. But there's also one option that I don't think people have mentioned, and he looked pretty good for a big power forward that can shoot. That guy from the Sixers, Yabusele, the French guy from the Olympics this past year.
He was out there. I think he's going to get paid too much now after the year he had.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. I'm like, I don't know, but we do have the mid-level tax exception too, right? To I believe like give them a little bit more.
Non-taxpayer mid-level exception if they don't go over the first apron. And actually, I just saw this. Lawrence Frank said the Clippers have no issue being in the tax, a nod to Steve Ballmer. But earlier he said, we're going to have the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, so it can only be one of those things. If you go into the tax, you no longer have that $13 million to play with.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, we have a lot of movable contracts, right? So and we would have a lot of flexibility depending on what happens with Harden's player option or Kawhi and whatnot.
If Harden opted out and left, and I'm not saying I want this, I'm just saying in that scenario, that's $35 million. That's you're under the tax even more. You're under that opens up all kinds of possibilities if that happens.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That's like one of the silver linings that I was kind of thinking with all this. We do have a lot of flexibility on our, like I said, on our contracts, very movable contracts. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking like I've seen other teams win championships. Obviously, I'm a basketball fan. I watch basketball. It just, I don't know. It seems like it's hard for them to win. It just seems like it's almost impossible for us to win. It feels like everything has to align so perfectly, and it seemed like this season was probably the closest we will get to that. Who knows? The future could hold better for us. We never know.
We didn't think this season would turn out as successful as it did, right? So who knows?
Yeah, That's true, but it's just, I don't know. This one feels a little different because this one felt like everything was kind of aligning, you can say, to the best for us. I don't know. That's how I kind of felt.
No, I get that. You had a healthy Kawhi. They were peaking going into the playoffs, and they had a disappointing first round exit and a really disappointing Game 7.
Yeah, man, and it's to the point. I was more sad about the season ending because we weren't going to get Clip Talk anymore. Honestly, I'm like, shoot, I tune into Clip Talk more often than anything else. So I'm like, shoot, that's what had me a little down more about the season.
I'm depressed too. If I could make enough money to be able to do this every day, the entire off season, I would. No cap, no lie. I love doing this. I love talking with you guys. It's my favorite thing.
I think I have a solution for that, Adam.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because you get on average, how much you get like views? Like most of the time, I see you have like 200 viewers, 160 around there. We could all put $10 a day, and I'll pay you a whole day right there, Adam.
I mean, sure. I would do it. I would sign up if you guys wanted to. If you guys pay, I'll be here. But I'm not.
We're gonna have to rally the troops.
I'm not begging either. I don't know. I thought about doing can you do membership things on YouTube? Like pay $1 a month to get the content?
Something like that.
I don't know.
Something like that. That's what I've seen, and I've seen other YouTubers do it, and I thought, I'm like, I'm not gonna pay for something that you could go watch for free. But I'm like, in your case, Adam, I got to support. I'm putting money in the team's pockets. Why not put money in in the pockets of the guy that carries us through these hard times.
Yeah, I mean, Miss Shakes is in here saying you can make your own page. This is my own page. This is under my own Gmail. Like nobody told me to do it. It's completely my own. I know people are saying Patreon. People are saying we need to keep Adam away from selling feet pics. If you guys tell me what's the way I could charge on the YouTube where if I could just somehow find a way to make $100 a day, I'd be in good shape.
Like I said, Adam, that was my solution. I don't know. We could try to come up with something else. This was just off the top of my head. But anyways, I don't want to keep you. I don't want to keep the line so long because I know there's other callers. But the last thing I want to say, I just want to leave off on a positive note. Because I've been on a little bit of a crash course these past 2 days, especially since I work with 3 Laker fans, I believe. So I had to hear from them. So I've been on a crash course these past couple of days. But let's finish on a positive note, Adam. After Game 6 in the chat, I believe I put that are we seeing a Zubac evolution? And someone put in the comments, someone replied to that, it doesn't matter if we lose this series or not. But I'm like, after seeing the way Zoo defended and played Jokic, what do you think that's going to do for Zoo's confidence going forward? Like, he's going to think that he could take on any center now. If he took the best center in the world, possibly the best player currently in the world, to Game 7, and he was able to stay in front of Jokic, and Jokic just moves fairly quick for a 7-footer. Zoo can move his feet out on the perimeter with other big 4s or 5s maybe. And I'm just thinking, what is that going to do for Zoo's confidence next season? He's going to feel like he could take on anyone. And if you notice, also, this wasn't much of a Jokic series. You didn't see or hear much of the Jokic crazy numbers. No. Jokic putting up a 40.
This was like a mediocre Jokic series by his standards.
And that has Big Zoo has a lot to do with it. I guarantee.
Oh, I completely. It's all Big Zoo. He was great in this series. He didn't have a great Game 7. Jokic still didn't have a great Game 7 either. Zoo was great. He absolutely took everything he did in the regular season and it translated to the playoffs. He was great.
Yeah, no, he was good. And that's what I'm saying. That's the positive thing that we could take away from this. That's why I'm also saying Zoo should probably be our most untouchable player this offseason. Like multiple people have said, explore options with, your contracts, your players. But I feel like he should be our most untouchable because you can build around Zoo. You could retool a little bit around Zoo. Just, you need the right pieces, like with any other center star player,
Yeah, I don't know if he can be a number 1 on a championship team. I don't know if he can be a number 2. But he is a championship level center.
Yeah, you could build around him to make him to show his strengths a little bit more than his weaknesses,
Yeah. He doesn't have many weaknesses. It's just, if he has a jump shot, it's over.
Oh yeah. That's what I was saying too. I'm like, he could still tap into a little 15, 16-foot mid-range. Like that one, he shot one that, I don't know if it was during the regular season. I think it was it must have been during the regular season. He shot one, like a little 15-footer from the baseline. That thing looked nice too. It looked like a nice free throw. He didn't even get like jump off the floor. Nothing. He gets that in his bag. Man,
I agree.
That's a different story, Adam.
All right, J-Dog. I appreciate the positivity on the way out. I appreciate you calling in all season. Your support means a lot.
Adam. It was also a positive about this season was getting to meet you and Dime, since you guys are the boys. You guys are fellow Clip fans.
Yes, sir. Dime
Yes,
Dropper
sir.
is my
All
guy.
right.
So are you, J-Dog.
I got you, Adam. I'll be right there next season too. I'll pull up to your little table right there.
Pull up.
I know where you're at now. Since I streamed my you last time.
Thank you, J-Dog. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You have a good one.
All right. Looks like the Lawrence Frank audio has been posted by Hoop Jab. Appreciate them. Let's go through it.
Lawrence, this is Law. You got me?
Law, I see you.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. I don't know if Dennis is doing that intentionally to you.
It is a remote.
All right. First, just obviously want to make sure everything's good with you and your family. And
appreciate you.
I say this with as much respect as
I think that's the reason L. Frank was doing it remotely. He's got a family thing going on. So yeah, thoughts and prayers to Lawrence Frank, whatever's going on there.
I can. Obviously, it sounds like you're planning on having Kawhi and James on this team next season. What level of consideration have you given to one of those two guys not being a part of the team next season?
Yeah, I haven't given it any, but I also am respectful of the fact that James is a player option. So, with any of those scenarios, we all understand the business of basketball. We are very, very happy with everything that we wanted from James. We got it and then some. When we initially traded for James, he was coming in as the third guy. And as the offseason transpired last offseason and, we went in a different direction. For James to do what he did, initially we brought James, it was all about facilitating. And then when it was James this year with no Kawhi, with Norm and Zoo and the rest of the group, we really asked James to do a lot. And at his age, to deliver what he did, I know you guys do. And what I love about your group, and I say this really with an appreciation, is you guys are totally invested. I know you have to be objective. So when you're critical of us, you're critical and we all respect it. But you guys I feel like you're part of the Clipper family and as such. And so I think you guys have a deep appreciation for what it means to lace it up and to show up every single night. 79 games. And he does that time and time and time again.
He's not wrong. Because of how Game 7 went with James Harden, let's not overlook how good he was in the regular season. That is extremely valuable, the floor raiser he is in the regular season. Don't completely throw that out.
We have a deep appreciation for that sort of availability and to be able to deliver and do what he did. He really changed our season in a sense. You go back to March 4th, we're up 23 against Phoenix, playing some of the best basketball that we had to get to that lead. And then we blew it. Our transition defense was horrible. We blew the game. We come back the next night, we're shorthanded against the Detroit Pistons. And what did James do? Throwback, 50-point performance. And from that point on, I think we went 18-3. And I say that we have a great level of appreciation for what James did this year. Kawhi, you guys know how I feel about Kawhi. And the empathy I feel, not just for Kawhi, but for any player who suffers multiple injuries, who puts so much into it. I look at it even from a personal lens, and maybe it's just too close for me, but people who deal with chronic illness, like when it's, in the NBA world, people associate injured players as a character flaw. It has nothing to do with character.
This is such a great point from Lawrence Frank.
Like these are your body parts. The only thing we ask our guys, do everything in your control to prevent injuries. And when you have them, put everything you can to rehab and recover from them. In Kawhi's sense, he does it times 10. And I know sometimes I protest too much, but it's only because I see all the work behind the scenes. And I think, we see, okay, the player, we see the money they're given, saying, hey, look, man, that's like many times these guys would give back the money to get their health. Like, imagine being the best of the best at something you do and you're robbed of doing it because either you just don't have the physical capacity to do it and it wasn't your fault. And
it's such a great point and doesn't get made enough because you got to listen to guys like Stephen A. Smith and others take the position of basically blaming guys for getting hurt.
You just don't have the physical capacity to do it and it wasn't your fault. And that's life. Life isn't fair. But my point is there is an emotional, when you're consistently getting injured, there's an emotional scarring that you have to be able to fight through. And here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. And so I'm super, super, super proud and happy for Kawhi. Again, big picture, I care most about the team. I care most about the organization. But I am really happy for him that he was able to come back, get back to playing a high level. And there's another level for him out there that he's going to get to next year. But to answer your question, Law, I haven't given really any thought. Now, because James is a player option, it'd be irresponsible for me not to have contingency plans with it. But I'm going in with the intent that if he doesn't pick up his option, that we're going to be able to reach an agreement that works well for James and works well for the Clippers. And
they want James back. There it is right there. Even if he doesn't pick up his option, becomes a free agent, they're going to try to work something out.
Doesn't pick up his option, that we're going to be able to reach an agreement that works well for James and works well for the Clippers. And Kawhi's obviously under contract for the next 2 years.
If they could find a way to have a better backup point guard situation that takes James minutes down to 32 or 30 minutes per game, that to me is the key here. That's how you get the best out of James consistently throughout the regular season and in the playoffs. You can't have him at the minutes he was playing this year. Again, that's not sustainable. That's untenable. There's no way.
Lawrence, appreciate you taking the time to do this, and also as well, hope everything is going okay with you and your family.
Thank you.
Keeping it on the topic of James and Kawhi, obviously in previous years, there's been a lot of what ifs with the way that you guys' seasons have ended because of injuries and whatnot. Of course, that wasn't the case this season with the injury report being clean for all 7 games.
Great question coming from Joey Lynn.
Is there a feeling internally that may have said something about the potential ceiling that exists with a Kawhi-led James team going into 2026, or is there still a belief that a team built around those two is good enough to win a championship?
A+ question from Joey Lynn. Not just the right question, the right phrasing of said question. Elite reporting here. Elite journalism from Joey Lynn.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things that have to go right. And as you guys know from following us, I think we have to contextualize all these. So if we would have got swept 4-0, well, I'd say, obviously we're not very, in a 7-game series where in game 1, we're up 15 and we have 20 turnovers and we lose in overtime by 2 in game 4. And I give Denver credit because game 4, those guys totally took the game to us. I mean, we made a hell of a comeback, but that game was a series changer because of how they attacked it. And it was Aaron Gordon, it was Christian Brown. I mean, Jokic is brilliant, 3-time MVP. Jamal Murray, his playoff performances, are well chronicled. But just their players 3 through 6 had a big impact. And I say this, Joey, in the sense that because we lost, how we lost, let's throw out the last game. Last game was uncharacteristic. I definitely believe in those two. Now, what's always a fair question is, okay, is Kawhi a top 5 guy? Is he a top 10 guy? Like, time will tell. Like, to me
this is interesting because before he always said when healthy, he's a top 5 guy. Now he's saying time will tell about Kawhi.
Now, what's always a fair question is, okay, is Kawhi a top 5 guy? Is he a top 10 guy? Like, time will tell. Like, to me if you look at, he played 37 games. I'd say his last 22, 23, he played at what I'd call an all-NBA level.
Definitely. Okay.
James, I hope, gets rewarded at an all-NBA level. So if you have two guys that in a given year are anywhere between, are within the top 15 players, then the guy who I think will be an all-star next year is Ivica.
All right. That audio is coming from Hoop Jab. We'll see if there's any more from Lawrence Frank. That was obviously a portion of today's presser. I'm hoping more gets uploaded here, but I have the quotes anyways, so either way, we're good. But let's get back to a phone call. Welcome into Clippers Talk with Adam Oslin. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello, you're on Clippers Talk. Hello. We'll try another one. Welcome into Clippers Talk with Adam Oslin. What's your name?
Hey, I'm Jay. I'm calling from LA, man.
What's up, Jay? What do you want to say?
Hey, good, man. I enjoy your show, man. I've listened to you a few times. I just discovered you this year. I'm actually, to be all honest, I'm a Laker fan, but I'm an objective Laker fan, so I'm not going to call here to gloat. I can't gloat anyway because my team got bounced.
Wait a second. We got a Laker fan calling in?
I hate the Lakers.
We'll take it, Jay. What do you want to say?
So I want to be objective here. James Harden. When I listened to the Lawrence Frank presser comments that you had there, he said it was uncharacteristic. James Harden, he had a great regular season. He carried you through lots of parts of the regular season when Kawhi was unavailable. And yes, he deserves some credit for that.
Not some. He deserves a ton of credit. They don't win 50 games. Again, Vegas had them as an over-under of 37.5. They won 13 more games than that.
Okay, right. Okay, I agree with you there. Okay. But when it comes to talk about characteristics, James Harden, when the lights are brightest and when the money's on the line, he turns into James Harden. Right?
I think that's fair to a degree. I think that's fair to a degree. I'm not going to say, though, he had a miserable playoff series because he played really well in 4 of the games, but he wasn't good enough in the elimination game. Well, I could say Jokic didn't play great in every game. Kawhi didn't play great in every game. It comes down to the elimination game and his past history in those games, and he wasn't good enough. I agree.
The difference between Jokic and Harden is Jokic has delivered when the money was on the line, and he has the hardware to prove it. Right?
Who does?
So
who?
Jokic.
What did Jokic do in Game 7?
Okay, he has a championship ring. He has a Finals MVP.
I agree. He is a better big game performer, but in this particular Game 7, what's so frustrating is Jokic didn't even play well. He had like 9 points at the half, and the Clippers are still down 11.
Okay, I can see how this is going to go. You're going to defend James Harden, and I don't.
I literally just said, hold on, Laker fan.
I hate the Lakers.
I literally just said it is fair to criticize him in elimination games. He has not been good enough. I just said that, and he wasn't good enough in Game 7. He wasn't good enough.
And right, you're right. But
even with 13 assists, I don't care. You have to have more than 7 points.
And 8 attempts. You have to empty the clip, man. You have to go out
completely
guns a-blazing.
I'm with you.
Just like Kawhi Leonard. The last time Kawhi Leonard went all out, guns a-blazing, was 2019, Game 6 against, or was it Game 6 or 7 against Golden State?
7.
That was the
you're talking about the Golden State series. I mean, most people reference the 39.
Kawhi go all out.
Most people reference the 39 shots he took in that Game 7 against Philadelphia as guns a-blazing.
Right. Okay. You're absolutely right there. That was my mistake. That's the game I was trying to reference. When he put the Toronto Raptors on his back, Game 7, and carried them to a victory.
Yes.
And carried them to the final.
And Kawhi wasn't good enough in this series either. I'd give him a B, but he's your number one player. James isn't. I need more from Kawhi.
So you bring those two guys back next year, James and Kawhi. You have these young, long wing defenders, wing players on these young teams like OKC, even Houston. Houston looked terrible last night, but they're only going to get better.
I agree.
A guy like Amen Thompson, what's the guy? A couple of the other guys that are like
Tari
6'8", 6'9", long.
Yeah.
Torrey Eason. A couple of the other guys they have.
Here's the problem with your
long,
argument, Laker fan.
Athletic.
Laker fan. What's your name again? I don't want to call you Laker fan.
I hate the Lakers. J
and LA. I know where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to bring back those two guys again. Jay, tell me how they have better options than that. Explain how realistically they have better options than that.
Brother, I'm a Lakers fan. I'm trying to figure out our team.
But I'm just saying.
We got a 40-year-old guy who's in tip-top shape but can't do it anymore. He can't do it anymore. And
I wouldn't say can't do it. He might have been the best player in that series for you guys when you account for the defense.
I've watched Prime LeBron. He's going half speed out there.
I'm not saying he's prime LeBron. I'm also saying he might have been a top 10 player in the league this season, or at least he definitely was top 15.
You're right.
I'm just saying.
Let me just say,
do we have better options? Do we have better options?
You don't have better options.
That's the problem.
And
these aren't bad options. These aren't bad options. Again, they only got 37 games from Kawhi this season, and they still won 50 games. If they get 50 games from Kawhi next year, who knows? Maybe they win 55.
Speaking to a true, because I listened to Dime too. I listened to his podcast where he went off on James and he went off on Kawhi, and he.
Did he offer any solutions?
He's a Clipper fan.
Did he offer any solutions?
He didn't offer anything.
Well, it's easy to go off. It's a lot harder to actually come up with realistic solutions. Since that's not a shot at Dime, because I know actually he does have a direction he'd like to go. I'm just saying in general, most fans who lash out.
He'd like to get rid of both of those guys.
Okay, that's fine. You're not going to be better doing that. But you at least are picking a different direction to go, and that's fair. I understand that.
But back in 2018, 2019, you had a team called the Cardiac Clips with a young Shea, and I'm not saying and a bunch of role players and the guys that played their behinds off every night. Young guys, young long guys, young wing defenders.
This team this team this season also played very hard every night. There were very few games where there was low effort. Dime would attest to that too.
Right. But do you think that if you made some trades, maybe parted with one big guys, brought in some young talent that you could maybe not even start over, but just retool? And
tell me what those trades are. Tell me what those trades are, and I'll evaluate them.
Okay, that's the talk show host trick bag when you.
It's not a trick. Asking for actual details is a trick. Asking for a specific trade, give me the trade, and I'll tell you. It's a lot easier to be vague and just say, just go get some young guys and do this. It's like, okay, give me some actual names and how they're doing it.
I'm not a GM, Adam.
You don't have to be a GM. Plenty of people give ideas of what they would do.
Well, my idea was to part ways with one of the big names.
For who?
and bring in some young talent.
For who?
I don't know. That's Lawrence Frank's job.
No. It's not Lawrence. It's your idea to move it.
I don't want.
Oh God, it's your idea to go in this direction. So take it further and actually have some names. What's a realistic trade they can make?
A realistic trade they can make is maybe going after maybe a Kobe White in Chicago. I'm not sure. He's a young guy. He can pop. He can play defense.
Who are they trading to get him?
You know. Like I said, I'm not a GM. I didn't know. I just
Jay,
thought of the name. I don't know.
I appreciate the phone call and being a listener. I'm a solutions-driven guy. Like, if we're going to talk about hypotheticals, let's do it. But let's actually have some names. Because if you're going to criticize and say, well, why aren't they doing this? Mm-hmm. To me, you have to actually provide the specifics of that trade that you're saying they're not doing. And then we can actually reason through whether or not that's even realistic to begin with. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. All right. Let me just say, I love your show. I'm a new listener. I like listening to your show. Don't like the Clips, but I like your show, man.
Hey.
Go Lakers.
You had to get that in at the end. Come on, Jay.
I hate the Lakers.
Jay, I appreciate you. Like, anybody can listen. I don't care if you're a Laker fan or not. And obviously, we're at odds on a lot of things, but including
I hate the Lakers.
It's all good. Anybody can call in. And I'm just looking for real solutions, not just guys that say, fire Lawrence Frank. That's the solution. Like, you fire Lawrence Frank, who are you getting? 6 years of bullshit. Like, that's what Master of the Keys is saying. It's like, has it really been 6 years of winning seasons and being a contender at times, and unfortunately falling short, mostly due to injury? I guess Lawrence Frank should have accounted and should have predicted that Kawhi was going to tear his ACL in 2021 when it looked like they were about to go on to win the championship. Another phone call here, 877-520-1150, 877-520-1150. I'm Adam Osland. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Patrick. I'm calling from Thousand Oaks area.
Patrick, what's up? What do you want to say?
Hey, I had a conversation with my friend yesterday about this, and now that it's been 2 days since the loss, I kind of able to, put some less emotional thought into it. But two things. First thing, I think, this is kind of my analysis on the James Harden struggles in elimination games.
Okay.
And I guess I'd like to hear if you agree or what. But I think a lot of James Harden's game, and the reason why he's so good in the regular season, is because obviously he's going to get more fouls called, more trips to the free throw line. His efficiency is going to be better. And then over a 7-game